Hello everyone, welcome to the Tim Booker channel. Wishing you all a pleasant listening experience. Today, I'm going to interpret a book for you called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. This is an unconventional Bible for entrepreneurs. Typical books on entrepreneurship teach entrepreneurs how to do the right things. But this book will also tell you what to do when things go wrong. The author of this book, Ben Horowitz, is a legendary entrepreneur and investor in the American internet industry. He is one of the most influential leaders in Silicon Valley and the global knowledge economy today. Horowitz started his entrepreneurial journey in the harsh environment of the internet bubble of the last century, and within 8 years, he amassed a personal fortune of $1.6 billion. Later, he transitioned to become a venture capitalist and invested in some of the most prominent internet companies in various fields, including Skype, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Airbnb, Groupon, and more. It can be said that a significant part of Silicon Valley's success has Horowitz's influence. As a result, he is hailed as a mentor for young entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley. The Hard Thing About Hard Things is Horowitz's reflection on his own entrepreneurial experiences, and it gained immense popularity after its publication. Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg, Google founder Larry Page, PayPal founder Peter Thiel, and other Silicon Valley giants have highly praised it. In Horowitz's view, entrepreneurship is a challenging endeavor with no simple answers. He once said that out of his more than 8 years of entrepreneurial experience, only 3 days felt like moments of success, and the rest of the time was an uphill battle. So, The Hard Thing About Hard Things is different from typical entrepreneurship books. It won't tell you that success can be achieved by following a step-by-step process. Instead, it narrates the most realistic problems that every entrepreneur must face. Where is the team? Where are the customers? What do you do when the company runs out of money? What if the company's performance is declining, and revenue is insufficient? In the face of fierce market competition, should you persist or sell the company? It can be said that in the process of building a business from scratch, every decision is incredibly difficult and life-changing. How to face challenges, adversity, and crises is the true theme of this book. From this perspective, The Hard Thing About Hard Things is not just about entrepreneurship, it's about the struggle of individuals in adversity. The book is approximately 200,000 words long and is divided into 2 parts. The first part is Horowitz's personal experiences, and the second part covers Horowitz's experiences in entrepreneurship, management, and investment. These experiences can be summarized into 5 difficult questions, which we will now begin to interpret one by one. Let's start with the first part, Horowitz's entrepreneurial journey. Horowitz was born into an ordinary family, with his father working as a magazine editor. After graduating with a master's degree in computer science from Columbia University, like many IT professionals, Horowitz switched jobs multiple times. He began as a computer engineer at a Silicon Valley graphics company, then moved to the startup Net Labs, and later to Lotus. While working at Lotus, by a stroke of luck, Horowitz encountered a product called Mosaic. This product essentially was an internet graphical interface. Horowitz keenly realized that the internet and web browsers would be the future trend, so he decisively joined the then leading browser company, Netscape. At that time, Netscape dominated the browser industry, with its browser far outperforming Microsoft's Internet Explorer, IE. However, Microsoft employed a cunning strategy by leveraging its monopoly in the Windows operating system to bundle and sell IE with Windows, essentially providing the browser for free. Many users no longer felt the need to purchase a separate browser. This strategy severely damaged Netscape, forcing them to sell to America Online, AOL. Subsequently, Horowitz embarked on a new entrepreneurial journey with Netscape founder Marc Andreessen. In 1999, they co-founded Loud Cloud. Horowitz became the CEO at the age of 32. Loud Cloud's focus was on cloud computing, which was cutting edge at the time. Initially, the company thrived, securing $60 million in funding from Morgan Stanley and Benchmark Capital under favorable conditions. Within 7 months of its founding, the company signed contracts worth over $10 million. By its 9th month, the contract value had reached $27 million. As performance improved, Loud Cloud became a rising star in Silicon Valley. However, as the saying goes, fortune favors the bold, and soon, Horowitz encountered the hardships of entrepreneurship. In March 2000, the internet bubble burst, and the Nasdaq index plummeted, leading to the sudden bankruptcy of numerous internet companies. In the aftermath, the collapse of the internet bubble dealt a severe blow to LoudCloud. To survive, Horowitz needed to raise funds, but no one was willing to lend a helping hand. In just 6 months, this startup went from being the hottest cloud company in Silicon Valley to a company that investors avoided like the plague. Faced with a life-or-death situation in entrepreneurship, Horowitz made a desperate move, hoping to raise capital through an IPO, initial public offering. However, going public at this time was far from easy. Horowitz had only enough funds to sustain the company for 3 weeks. And so, he began the roadshow. A roadshow is where you pitch your company's stock to investors. The 3-week roadshow nearly suffocated Horowitz, with him sleeping for no more than 2 hours a day. On the 3rd day of the roadshow, Horowitz's wife fell critically ill and went into a coma, momentarily stopping breathing. This left Horowitz disoriented during his subsequent presentations. He admits in the book that he was lost half of the time. Horowitz pulled out all the stops to go public, even lowering the stock price from $10 per share to $6 per share. In the end, he miraculously succeeded. LoudCloud went public on Nasdaq, raising $162.5 million in capital. However, due to the exorbitant cost of going public, neither Horowitz nor his employees had the inclination to hold a celebration. Going public allowed LoudCloud to weather the storm, and in 2001, the company achieved its annual revenue target. This was considered a remarkable victory at the time because, in the bleak year of 2001, very few internet companies managed to accomplish this. However, challenging times soon returned. LoudCloud's biggest client, HX, went bankrupt suddenly, leaving Horowitz owed $25 million. Horowitz later recalled, in an instant, it felt like the world had stopped turning. The stock market's reaction was swift and brutal. LoudCloud's stock price plummeted by 50%, pushing Horowitz to the brink of bankruptcy. Yet, Horowitz didn't falter. He displayed remarkable resilience and adaptability during this crisis. After careful consideration, he decided to divest assets and debt, transitioning the company from cloud computing services to software. He launched a lightning-fast operation, rapidly selling the company's core business to EDS. He retained only the most valuable intellectual property and some key employees. After selling the original business, shedding debt, Horowitz rebranded the company as Opsware. However, the situation remained grim. At the time, Nasdaq had just hit rock bottom, and the market had yet to regain its vigor. Opsware's development was a roller coaster ride, and during its toughest moments, the stock price plummeted to just 35 cents per share. Nasdaq threatened to delist Opsware, and the media was filled with negative reviews. Nevertheless, in such dire circumstances, Horowitz's strong execution skills led the company to a remarkable turnaround. He raised the stock price from 35 cents per share to over $7 per share. Horowitz believed he had emerged from the darkest forest, but challenging times were not yet over. Opsware's largest client, EDS, intended to terminate their contract, which would result in Opsware losing 90% of its revenue. Just when everyone thought Opsware was doomed, another miracle occurred. Horowitz cleverly renegotiated the contract, but soon after, a new crisis emerged. A formidable competitor, the Iraqi army, rose to prominence, snatching several of Opsware's orders, directly causing Opsware to miss its quarterly revenue target. The company's stock price dropped to $2.90 per share. Facing this challenge, Horowitz once again engineered a comeback. He improved the product line through acquisitions and struck a lucrative deal with Cisco. Cisco prepaid $30 million to Horowitz for the rights to resell Opsware's products. Opsware's performance steadily grew, with revenue reaching $150 million, and the stock price stabilizing between $6 and $8 per share. However, a new competitive threat emerged. At this point, many large companies extended olive branches to Horowitz, hoping to acquire Opsware. After careful consideration, Horowitz seized the opportunity and, through skillful negotiations, sold the company to HP for a high price of $14.25 per share, totaling $1.65 billion. Now that we've covered Horowitz's experiences, you must have noticed that his entrepreneurship journey was indeed a test of time, coinciding with the bursting of the internet bubble. Therefore, the entire process appeared extremely challenging. However, as a successful entrepreneur, Horowitz never easily gave up. With unwavering determination and exceptional effort, he repeatedly faced various difficult situations, rallied his team, attracted customers, and managed capital operations, turning the tide in each instance. In his 8 years of entrepreneurship, he not only accumulated a fortune of $1.6 billion but also developed an incredibly strong inner resolve and a wealth of management experience. As a venture capitalist later on, he became a revered mentor to individuals like Mark Zuckerberg, Kevin Systrom, Evan Williams, and others, contributing to the success of companies like Skype, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and more. Horowitz's experiences are indeed a genuine and valuable reference for every entrepreneur and business manager. Moving forward, let's delve into the second part of this book and decipher the 5 challenging questions of entrepreneurship. The first question: how do you recruit employees for a startup company? Most young entrepreneurs, especially during their first venture, lack significant hiring experience. Suddenly, they find themselves needing to recruit talent for various positions and become uncertain about their approach. Should they hire a bunch of exceptional individuals? Where should they look for talent? Should they poach employees from larger companies? If a friend in the industry recommends an employee, should they consider hiring them? Horowitz places great importance on recruitment, and he has a particularly admirable approach. Despite several instances where his company came close to bankruptcy, hardly any employees voluntarily left during those trying times. During moments of adversity, everyone stood united by his side to overcome challenges. This unity is undoubtedly something many entrepreneurs envy. So, how did Horowitz manage to find so many exceptional employees? In the book, he shares 3 key insights. First, he advises against being overly fixated on perfect resumes. When hiring, every entrepreneur or manager hopes to find the most outstanding talent. But how do you measure outstanding? Without experience, one may fall into the trap of selecting candidates solely based on seemingly perfect resumes. Horowitz disagrees with this approach. In his view, the key is to find the most suitable person for each position, which should be the only criterion. Thus, the first step in recruitment is to understand the specific skills, experience, and traits required for the role. Horowitz had an advantage in this regard. Before starting his own business, he had worked in technology, sales, and management, which gave him some insight into several critical positions. If you lack this kind of experience, Horowitz suggests immersing yourself in the role you intend to hire for or seeking advice from industry experts. For example, if you're founding an internet company and need to hire a human resources manager, you could consult other industry leaders to learn what skills and traits are essential for an HR manager in an internet company. After understanding the role's requirements, you should prepare interview questions that assess whether the candidate is a good fit for the position. Horowitz had a highly effective sales executive named Mark Cranny. When hiring Cranny, the board of directors unanimously opposed the decision because his resume was less impressive than many others. He didn't have an Ivy League background or a management role at a prestigious company. However, Horowitz saw 3 key qualities in Cranny that mattered most. First, he had a strong personal sales performance. Second, he excelled in training new salespeople. Lastly, he had an in-depth understanding of Horowitz's company's current projects, demonstrating his extensive industry knowledge. These 3 qualities were precisely what Horowitz needed, so he overlooked Cranny's other shortcomings and hired him. Later, Cranny's outstanding performance proved Horowitz's choice to be correct. Horowitz's second insight is that senior executives from large companies may not necessarily be suitable for startups. Startups often favor seasoned executives from large companies because they bring strong skills and extensive experience, which can compensate for the startup team's lack of experience. Additionally, investors may advise or pressure young teams to do so. However, Horowitz believes that senior executives from large companies may not always be the right fit for startups. Horowitz uses a vivid metaphor to illustrate his point: hiring senior executives from large companies is like athletes using performance-enhancing drugs. If used correctly, you might break records, but if used incorrectly, you can end up in a catastrophic failure. What are the risks of hiring senior executives from large companies that you need to be aware of? Firstly, there is a mismatch in pace. The work pace in large companies and startups is entirely different. Startup executives must proactively find things to do, and if they don't come up with new ideas every day, the company may stagnate. In contrast, senior executives in large companies are used to waiting for emails, phone calls, and reports from subordinates. When they work in a small company, they remain in a perpetual waiting state, unable to match the work pace of the startup. Secondly, there is a mismatch in skills. Senior executives who have worked in large companies for a long time typically excel in organizational design, process improvement, and coordination between departments. However, communication and coordination between departments in a startup are straightforward, and there's no need for complex organizational structures or process improvements. The skills that senior executives from large companies excel at are challenging to put to use in a startup. So, if a startup intends to hire senior executives from large companies, remember to filter out candidates who don't match the pace and skills required. Moreover, once a senior executive joins, it's crucial to help them integrate quickly. Horowitz suggests that if they don't adapt within 30 days, you should consider letting them go. Horowitz's third insight is about not poaching employees from friends' companies. In essence, Horowitz believes in the principle of treating others as you would like to be treated. What if a highly skilled employee from a friend's company voluntarily seeks employment at your startup, and you genuinely need their expertise? Horowitz recommends being transparent about the relationship between your company and the friend's company and having an open conversation with your friend. If your friend is unwilling to let the employee leave, you should decline the employee's application. Only if your friend agrees to let the employee go can you consider hiring them. Next, let's discuss the second fundamental issue in entrepreneurship: how to improve a company's efficiency. Elevating company efficiency is of paramount importance for entrepreneurs. Doing more with less, achieving high efficiency, and making one person do the work of two are essential skills for startup companies. Horowitz believes there are two effective methods to boost a startup's efficiency. Firstly, establish clear criteria for promotions. According to the bad apple principle, once there are underperforming individuals in a management team, they can negatively impact others and gradually turn even the most outstanding team members into mediocrity. This happens because employees under an ineffective manager often reference the worst performing manager when assessing their own performance. To ensure fair and just promotions, Horowitz suggests the following measures. Clearly define the responsibilities and competency standards for each job level, such as requiring a sales manager to achieve a specific annual sales target, like exceeding $30 million. Determine promotions through cross-department assessments of employees. Horowitz also offers a unique approach. When deciding on an employee's promotion, compare them first to peers at the same level and then to employees one level higher. If they perform just as well in both comparisons, they can be promoted. The second method to improve efficiency is to reduce office politics. Firstly, when selecting employees, assess and analyze their ambitions. If you consistently hire highly ambitious individuals, your company may turn into a microcosm of the U.S. Senate, filled with political maneuvering. To reduce office politics, consider hiring some steady and dependable employees alongside the ambitious and aggressive ones. Secondly, establish clear organizational structures and delineate authority. If all your subordinates are highly ambitious, they will likely seek to expand their spheres of influence. For example, the chief financial officer may eye the position of the chief executive officer, or the marketing director may try to interfere with the operations of the technology department. To avoid such situations, it's best to clearly define the responsibilities and authority of each position to prevent conflicts between departments. Lastly, founders must exercise caution and avoid being manipulated by others with ulterior motives. Although many entrepreneurs lack a political mindset and despise office politics, they often unknowingly encourage internal competition. For instance, when subordinates make requests or report grievances, never make any decisions based solely on one-sided information. Once you express your viewpoint, every word you say becomes a bargaining chip in power struggles. When faced with employee complaints and office gossip, you must listen to both sides, thoroughly understand the situation, and then make decisions. As the founder and leader of the company, you must consider the potential consequences of your every word and action. The third challenging issue in entrepreneurship is, what is the most crucial task for entrepreneurs? We know that some companies have exceptionally advanced technology, creating a substantial gap between them and their competitors. As long as they maintain this technological edge, sales come easily. For example, the Dutch company ASML manufactures the most advanced extreme ultraviolet lithography (EUV) machines globally. Each EUV machine comes with a price tag of up to $100 million, and customers must wait in line. It takes a full 2 years after payment before one can hope to acquire an ASML lithography machine. However, there are only a few companies globally that can boast of such a technological advantage, and this includes the likes of Netscape, where Horowitz worked, as well as the companies he later founded, LoudCloud and Opsware. However, none of these companies achieved the level of technological dominance that ASML holds. In such situations, as the owner of a startup, your most critical task is to win customers. You need to offer products that customers love, create sales models that competitors cannot match, and do everything possible to gain customer favor. In this regard, Horowitz is a master, and he has an extreme case to illustrate this point. At the time, when Horowitz had just transformed LoudCloud into Opsware, the company's largest customer was EDS, which had acquired LoudCloud's main business. EDS accounted for 90% of Opsware's revenue. Opsware's operation highly relied on EDS's contract, and if EDS were to abandon Opsware's products, the company could face immediate closure. To persuade EDS to change its mind, Horowitz engaged in extensive communication with EDS executives, notably Frank Johnson. In the end, he was granted only a 60-day grace period. However, resolving all the technical issues within 60 days was simply unrealistic. To win Johnson back, Horowitz took an unconventional approach. He purchased Tangram, a company favored by Johnson, for $10 million in cash and stock. He then integrated all of Tangram's software into Opsware's contract with EDS, offering the entire package to EDS. Upon learning this news, Johnson was thrilled and immediately agreed to renew the contract with Opsware. From this case, it's evident that Horowitz, unlike some entrepreneurs who focus solely on technical issues, prioritizes customers. To secure orders and retain customers, he is willing to think outside the box, devise unique sales methods, and create unprecedented sales models. The fourth challenging issue in entrepreneurship is how to face adversity. Startup companies can encounter difficulties at any time, including customer losses, continuous performance decline, decreasing cash flow, negative media coverage, investor skepticism about your blueprint, internal turmoil, department heads and technical experts resigning, and ordinary employees privately discussing job changes. What should you do in such situations? Horowitz provides 2 pieces of advice. First, seek financing. Finding new investors is the most direct solution. Often, when a technology company faces adversity, it's either due to inadequate technical capabilities or a flawed business model, or it may be an issue with the overall industry environment. In such circumstances, injecting new capital to help the company weather the storm can open up limitless possibilities. Horowitz's second suggestion is to pivot. If the existing business no longer holds a competitive advantage in the market, a decisive pivot is often the best choice. Instead of channeling limited resources into a struggling business, it's better to concentrate your efforts on developing a new, advantageous business. As previously mentioned, Horowitz executed a transformation when he sold LoudCloud's primary business to EDS, retaining intellectual property and Opsware software. This move allowed him to transition into a software company. Through this deal, both Horowitz and EDS achieved a win-win situation. EDS acquired LoudCloud's brand, customers, and sales channels, along with a significant number of experienced technical staff, laying a solid foundation for their foray into cloud computing. Meanwhile, LoudCloud shed its debt, avoiding bankruptcy, and because EDS urgently needed to use Opsware software, Horowitz's new company secured an annual revenue of $20 million. In this regard, IBM is also an excellent example. As IBM had long enjoyed a monopoly in the computer industry, the company became accustomed to a comfortable environment with high benefits, and they weren't used to scrutinizing expenses. However, when they found themselves engaged in price wars with competitors, they often struggled to compete. In response, IBM made a decisive pivot by abandoning part of the consumer market and divesting low-profit businesses like personal computers and x86 to Lenovo. They redirected their main focus toward expanding their presence in sectors like the military, government, and banking, where customers were less price-sensitive but demanded high levels of security and reliability. This transformation ultimately turned IBM from a hardware company primarily focused on selling computers into a high-profit technology services company. The fifth challenging issue in entrepreneurship is whether you should sell your company or not. The entrepreneurial journey is always filled with difficult choices, and deciding whether to sell your company is perhaps the most challenging of all. In reality, if you remove personal emotions and make decisions rationally, the question of whether to sell the company may not be too difficult. Unfortunately, selling a company often becomes complicated due to the strong emotional attachment many entrepreneurs have. Horowitz advises that, excluding emotional factors and analyzing purely from a rational perspective, whether you should sell the company mainly depends on your expectations for the company and your assessment of the market situation. Specifically, there are two scenarios to consider. In the first scenario, if your company operates in an emerging field and has already seized the initiative in that field, positioning itself as a pioneer, then you should continue to persevere. This is because once you have the potential to become a dominant player in a new industry, few investors will be capable of buying your company, or in other words, the buyer's offers may be far below the actual value of your company. For example, Google received numerous acquisition offers during its early days, some of which exceeded $1 billion. However, these seemingly attractive conditions were far below Google's potential value at the time. Google's expansion into new markets was worth much more than the markets owned by these potential buyers. Therefore, the benefits of continuing to operate Google far exceeded the gains from selling the company. In such a scenario, any rational decision-maker would not choose to sell the company. In the second scenario, if your company is a follower in the industry and industry consolidation through mergers and acquisitions is intensifying, and it's becoming increasingly competitive, then if you cannot become the industry leader and there's a risk of declining due to fierce market competition, selling the company to cash out may be a viable option. When Horowitz decided to sell Opsware, he primarily considered two factors. First, Opsware couldn't become a dominant player like Google. At the time, both Opsware and its main competitor, BleedLogic, had strong technical capabilities and sales networks, so any industry giant acquiring either of them could dominate the field, potentially marginalizing the company that wasn't acquired. Second, the widespread adoption of virtualization technology could impact Opsware's existing industry position. In other words, from a technological development perspective, there was significant uncertainty regarding Opsware's technological advantage. In this situation, selling the company at a relatively high price was a wise choice. With this, the core content of the book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things, has been summarized for you. Let's briefly recap. In the first part, I introduced Horowitz's entrepreneurial journey. In the second part, I summarized the 5 most challenging issues in entrepreneurship, which are how to recruit, how to improve company efficiency, what the most important task of an entrepreneur is, how to face adversity, and whether to sell your own company. Horowitz, based on his own entrepreneurial experiences, provided a vivid entrepreneurial practical lesson for every entrepreneur. If you are currently in the midst of entrepreneurship, Horowitz's experiences and entrepreneurial insights are bound to provide you with much inspiration. If you are a professional or a manager in the workplace, many of the lessons in this book will also greatly benefit your professional development. Whether you are embarking on the entrepreneurial journey or striving in the workplace, you will face challenging moments time and again. At such times, please remember Horowitz's advice: there are no simple answers in business. To succeed, you must face each difficult decision with resilience and focus. So, here we conclude this book. Congratulations on completing another book, and thank you for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel, like, and share this valuable knowledge with your friends. Let's combine wisdom and practice to achieve our financial goals and create a better future together. Thank you all, and goodbye.